All right, look at that. Mr. Mike Draco checking in from Cincinnati. He knows what time it is. It's 9 p.m. almost on the East Coast. That means it's time for Shop Talk, America's first and favorite two-wheel motorcycle entertainment and information show. Mr. Radar is with us here as well. Hey, man, it's going to be a great show tonight. We got lots and lots of stuff to talk about. Fresh back from the MRF Meeting of the Minds. We had a fantastic event all day there yesterday with everybody. Thank you so much to my brothers from Meeting of the Minds, from MRF, from the A-Bates, all around the country that were in attendance, and especially shout out to Pennsylvania A-Bate, who had an absolute army on hand that were taking care of all of the organization and operations there. They killed it. We're going to talk about that in the second part of the hour. First part of the hour, there has been an incredible buzz climbing about the Four Corners Motorcycle Rally. We got Headman in charge here tonight, and we're going to get into that and let you guys know what's going on at the Four Corners Rally. Mighty Quinn in with us, Greg White all the way from Lago Vista, Texas, Bill Stevens, Jeremy Sather, Minnesota, good standing, regular record here with Shop Talk, Jeff McKinney in the house. Hey, if you're watching, no matter what social media channel you're watching Shop Talk on, any of the 15 that we broadcast through, you're welcome to participate in the show. Don't just sit there and be another effing observer. Wherever you're watching from, put your comments in, and they will come into our little box here. We'll try to get to it throughout the show. Questions, comments, concerns, general complaint department, we're going to push you over to Mark. But we're about 3 minutes out. Howdy from Sturgis, right on. Ray's Motor Life in the house with us. If you do put a comment up, tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're watching from. It gets give us a kick to see where everybody's watching from tonight. 3 minutes out, we're going live with this one. That's just enough time for you to get a drink, kick back, relax, and get ready for Shop Talk. Don't go anywhere. Mike Draco, Mark does handle complaints. I'm just not going to tell you how he handles them. It's a trade secret. I could tell you, but then he wouldn't be able to kill you. Keith Thompson, all the way from Florida. Keith, I owe you a phone call, man. I definitely think that you're a good option for the garage build-off. So maybe if you can't get the rest of your pictures uploaded, maybe DM us or send me an email on it, and we'll get it checked out. Tiger Ward, hey guys, Tiger from Saltville, Virginia. How you doing down there, man? You guys got a hell of a storm, huh? Professional Monkey in the house. What's up, buddy? Robin Hingabottom in the house. Boy, the parking lot's filling up, and with good reason. We're getting ready to go live with Shop Talk tonight. I turned off the wrong button. The sound went away, just like that. And all of a sudden, it was dark out. Tim Skates, Houston, Texas. I love me some Texas. Right about now would be killer, too, because it's getting colder and colder here in Pennsylvania. A little Texas reprieve wouldn't be a bad idea at all. It's just adjusting the sound effects. I had a little bit loud. 100 degrees in Texas today. I could take it. Like I said, it's cold as hell in Pennsylvania. And I know Heather's coming in via satellite tonight from New Hampshire, and I know it sure isn't warm up there. Robin Higginbottom was just at Street Vibrations. Best turnout in a while. That's so good to hear that, man, because a couple years there, it seemed like that thing was going downhill. All right, we're 19 seconds away. That's just enough time to get this thing out of the station and up onto the tracks. Let's go live with this week's episode of Shop Talk. Here we go. Okay, scooter tramps and chopper jockeys all across the land. It's just after 9 p.m. on the East Coast. That means it's time for another episode of Shop Talk. I am your host, Chris Callen from Cycle Source Magazine in the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio. Getting ready for another killer show. I'm joined by the regular riffraff I call my crew.
Stop already.
Hey.
Look, you look like you're here. We don't even notice a difference from 50 floors beneath the street level, Heather.
Well, otherwise, then she's in a completely different room.
A little bit different background, but my hair takes up most of it, so you won't actually know.
Oh, man, what a week. What a crazy week. We got back from Smokeout immediately on deadline, trying to unpack trailers, everything else that went along with that. I wanted to pull my hair out.
Do you actually even know if we put in the issue of the magazine?
No, I'm waiting to see when it gets here to see how we did.
Do you guys still do a magazine?
We do a magazine.
Wow.
Yep.
I forgot all about that.
We do.
Forgot all about that magazine.
Semi-regularly.
Actually, I will say this issue is Sturgis coverage, and it was really great.
It was.
We had a guy randomly who worked with before, Bob VD, send us pictures. Just, hey, like, I took some pictures in Sturgis. Use them how you see it. He's a phenomenal photographer anyway. But we're like, let's see if he'll write a story from his perspective. Because Chris and I do... Wait, there's a magazine. Thanks, Monkey. Thanks.
It's priceless.
I get yelled at whenever I say it. It's priceless when he does.
I'm just going to hold up a bottle of Fireball and go, dance, monkey, dance. And see what...
Oh, Jesus. So, yeah,
whatever.
It's a fantastic issue. And what Heather was getting to is Bob Vidi's story was someone who had never been to Sturgis and thought that Sturgis was all of the, typical preconceived bullshit and got out there and had a blast.
Had a preconceived notion that Sturgis was going to suck.
Yeah. And
a few days there, it totally changed his mind, and he's going to come back.
Yep. Yeah.
Sucker.
So lots of good stuff. Like I was saying at the in the pre-show, just coming back from the Motorcycle Riders Foundation meeting of the minds, their annual convention, and lots to talk about there. But it was, I want to thank them so much for their hospitality, everything that they did for me and Bob K. In the second part of the hour, we're going to get to that. A strange thing happened in the studio the other day, Mark. Well, actually outside of the studio. The doorbell rang. I go to the door, and a guy standing there, a German man who, spoke a little bit of English, and he told me he was delivering a motorcycle. And I'm like, I didn't actually order a motorcycle, though.
But I'll take it.
So, yeah, it was this... Indian, what's the actual reference? Sport chief or
Indian
chief? Chief sport.
Indian sport chief. Yep. Which was great. We've been going back and forth for a little bit. They've wanted you to test ride for a bit now, but we've been so busy and on the road, we couldn't figure out a time. And literally on Wednesday or Tuesday, it just got delivered. We had no idea it was coming or anything. It's great. So Chris has a good little scoop for a bit. I'm debating on whether or not to ask him how long you can keep it. I just figured we'd kind of go for it.
Hey, here's the funny thing about it, though.
We've already cut it up in pieces. What do you mean how long do we keep it?
How long do we have to get it back together? Here's the funny thing, though. This is what a dumbass I am sometimes. So the guy drops the bike off. I grab the keys. It's first thing in the morning. I'm still trying to have coffee, and I don't pay attention. I just look at it and I go, "Okay, it must be a Scout because it looks like a little tiny motorcycle, right?" So without even thinking about it, later that day I go out, I hop on it, I make sure the key fob's in my pocket. I hop on it and I take off, and I cannot believe how this motorcycle is trying to ride out from underneath me. And I stop somewhere and get off, and I'm talking to Mr. Fish, actually, Mark. And I look at the side of the motor, and it says 116 cubic inches. And then I see where it says Chief. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not a Scout at all. No wonder. The whole motorcycle maybe weighs 600 pounds, and it has a 116-inch motor on it. So
It's very deceiving. Even for me, at first blush, I thought it was a Scout because I'm like, wow, that's a cool little bike. It's perfect for my size. I think that thing would snap my neck.
Well, and I got to tell you,
Mr. Fish, didn't he actually say it was the fastest motor he's ever been on?
Yeah.
And he was a racer.
Yeah, it was. And that's, I got to say some props for Indian right off the bat because, let me get this cat out of the bag real quick. The pipes are ugly as sin. Like, first thing I would do is find a way to cut those off and do something with it.
Where else are you going to heat up your lunch?
They're terrible.
Not, in all fairness, the Harley pipes on what is it, the is it the Sportster S?
No. Comparing these pipes to Harley's pipes is still no excuse. Like that all has to do with EPA and the dumb shit that goes on in the motorcycle world today. But aside from the pipes, it's a really good looking motorcycle, but the performance is off the hook. Like there's, just like most modern motorcycles now, in the display, there's the opportunity to do a standard tuning mode, a touring tuning mode, and a sport tuning mode. And like under sport, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Like I literally from a standstill nailed the throttle, the back wheel broke loose, and I rode it out with the wheel spinning. It was ridiculous. So looking forward to that. We're going to be doing a lot of test ride videos, and I may even try to reach out to Indian and see if they'll let us do it'd be great to take it up to Toast and like do a pipe with it. It would be great to maybe they'll let us actually customize it a little bit.
That'd be fun.
That would be cool.
Otherwise,
and then we can keep it forever and ever. We can name it George.
You're so weird. This is a weird week though. Did you ever have one of those weeks where like day after day you look at your social media and just don't give a rat's ass? Like there's just
every day.
I mean,
I did see a really cute puppy today.
You saw a cool what?
Cute puppy.
Oh God.
I think that's the only thing that's good on social media lately. I'm sorry. Fluffy cows and dogs.
Oh, Jesus.
Mini cows. So whenever they get old, you can have a mini cookout.
Fluffy mini cows.
Radar says, what's the torque to the rear wheel? Radar, did you pay attention to the fact that I didn't even know it was a Chief? Like the chances that I looked up any specs or anything yet? No idea. The only reason I know that it has a key fob is because I went to Mr. Fish's, let him take it for a ride, and made sure he had the key fob in his pocket, and then rode home without it. So,
I hate when that happens.
Yep.
But wait a minute, the best part, Mark, and I got to throw you under the bus for this. He stops and talks to the guy at the bottom of the street.
And that's where the bike stays.
Yeah, it was the thought.
And then he calls me, and he's walking up the hill.
Pissed.
Because he's got to go drive to get
pissed
the key
off.
fob.
Yeah. This is my life.
Technology. Well, in another, we may have me and Rick may have brought home something about a hot rod. So
yeah, how about that?
Yeah, let's do something cool. Finally.
Talk about that for a second because you've had that chassis. Mark's had a chassis, a hot rod chassis, complete.
Yeah.
Rear end, motor, driveline, everything ready to go. It literally only needs a body. And what's it been, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, been something like that.
Jesus.
So, well, when you have to consolidate everything you own into a 40 by 40 garage. You don't have room. I got to climb over 2 bikes just to get to the toolbox. But I think we bought a '57 Chevy pickup truck. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see you in the next week or so.
You're going to keep it 57 Chevy and put it on that chassis?
Yeah, that's the plan. So we'll see.
How you doing?
You just moved up 10 points in Heather sex appeal.
The cool part about it is there's no key fob.
What'd you say? No key fob.
No key fob. You can't drive away and forget it. So I probably won't even have a key. I mean, you know me. I'm lucky if it has a battery. So.
Also, hey man, listen. I want to give everybody a little heads up. This is Shop Talk that you're watching, the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio. We do this every Sunday at 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Glad to have you all here and have a killer show tonight. But if this is your first time, welcome to Shop Talk. Where the hell you been?
Let me apologize now.
Yeah. It's a program we do 90 to 120 minutes of all the two-wheel bullshit we can fit. We started off with a little segment we call the news. The Shop Talk World Report is brought to you by Law Tigers. Get the compensation you deserve and get back on the road with Law Tigers. First up tonight, in from Motorcycle Power Sports News, All Kids Bike and Yamaha give LAUSD kindergartners opportunity to learn bike riding in PE class.
Nice.
Celebrity athletes deliver bike program to 74th Street Elementary School ahead of Super Motocross Championship weekend at Los Angeles Coliseum. This is, no matter what we hear about All Kids Bike in the program is just awesome, man, because I can remember when this thing first got started and people were kind of like, really? And it has grown into such an incredible thing. People all across the country participate in this, making sure that class after class has the opportunity for kids to learn to ride bicycles. Because believe it or not, we were in serious decline in this country. Yeah. So good for Yamaha Motorcycle Company.
80 was it 80% kids know how to ride bicycles?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it was up there.
Something crazy.
And they were saying something about a safety issue with them riding bicycles in school. That's crazy. They make you climb the rope. They're not worried about you falling 30 feet.
Did anybody play dodgeball?
Right. No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, see, in today's political climate, you can't climb the rope or play dodgeball anymore.
None of that. Yeah,
like you can't do stuff like that, because if somebody questions the rope as a rope or not, or if climbing a rope is socially acceptable behavior for Panthers.
I mean, I could think of 800 games that we did in PE when we were that have probably been outlawed. Do you remember Red Rover?
Oh yeah,
where you literally had to closesline a kid as he charged you.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, they made kids sign waivers.
Monkey, yes.
Yeah, dodgeball at Smokeout. That's so good.
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, they made kids sign waivers to play dodgeball at school.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, it is. So we just hurt him even worse.
So, question though, do we do dodgeball on motorcycles?
I think you're pushing it. I think you're pushing it.
I think we just do dodgeball. I mean, that would be cool in itself. Somebody's gonna get hurt. That'd be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on Monkey's team.
I'm having a hard time finding the second story.
Oh boy.
I'm going to try to pull this up real quick. No, because this is important for us to talk about.
Whatever. It's always important. I like making shit up.
BMW motorcycles. What was that? What was the site we were getting that from, Heather?
It was on a bunch. Visor down. Here, I'm going to drop it.
This was... No, I got it. I got it. This was big news at the Motorcycle Riders Foundation meeting of the minds, as you can imagine. But apparently, BMW Motorcycles has been forced to halt. Well, we can't say for sure that they've been forced to halt production, but for some reason, they have instituted a stop sale notice to all their dealers, and this is for all new and used North America motorcycle dealers, a complete stop sale of their product. BMW North America dedicated providing vehicles to our customers that meet their expectations, assure that our vehicles are of the highest industry standards. BMW performs ongoing testing and evaluation. Following a recent quality analysis, BMW is pursuing measures to further evaluate the material used in a component of its motorcycle evaporative system, which may not have been produced to material specifications. Now, what this says to a lot of us is, rather than pay like a $2 bazillion fine, something's wrong there that doesn't meet the EPA's standards, and they're taking preventative measures. We will absolutely be ahead of this and try to get you guys some more information as it starts to unfold.
Yeah,
but
aren't there conflicting reports out there? Some people are saying it's our government.
That it was forced, that the federal government handed down a mandate.
However, I couldn't find anything that said there was a recall or anything about our government.
Yeah.
So I have to assume that you're right, Chris, that they're being proactive.
But see, even being proactive, like, can you imagine what this is going to do to their companies? To their company's business across the country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's it's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
that's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be ridiculous. And
Well, 'cause
what the question you have to ask is where does this start and end? Was this a new thing that came up that they're reacting to? Was it a new piece of, well, I can't even say piece of legislation for the EPA, because let's be serious, it's not based on legislation. It's a mandate. It would be a new mandate. And it's just like this is getting worse and worse. And that was a lot of the talk that we had at the meeting of the minds that this last couple of days here, but it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, because for it to be a voluntary stop sale, that's pretty hefty, because it's even on used vehicles in the dealers. So that's huge.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and everything, like we were talking about the big push for electric. There was on the MRF site somewhere, I was reading how there's actually been some reaction based measures that they've taken on in the federal government. There it is.
The question: if they're trying to avoid paying a fine or something like that, aren't they going to lose that more in?
Oh my God!
Product sales.
Well, you can't really say that, because if they had to pay a fine and they had to bring every motorcycle back and adjust it to meet specifications, it'd be way more.
Yeah.
This was something I got from the Motorcycle Riders Foundation website. Thursday, September 14th, House of Representatives passed H.R. 1435, Preserving Choice in Vehicle Purchases Act, with final vote of 222 to 190. Would he amend the Clean Air Act to prevent the ban on the sale of internal combustion engines, effectively trumping any state law that prohibits their sale? This is ridiculous that we're even talking about this. That they're literally putting bans state by state, and I think the count was up to like 12 or something.
Well, when they can't get their when they're 90 years old and their limousine gets the Congress to the building and they can't get there because it's a petroleum engine, they're going to have some real issues. So,
or their private jet, or their helicopter,
right. Oh, and on top of that fact, we were just having this conversation. It takes petroleum to fire up a windmill. Like, what are they thinking? Mm-hmm. The whole thing doesn't make sense. Somewhere along the line, there's money for them in it.
Oh,
That's pretty much where it all gets to. So
that's what it all comes down to. The lobbyists greasing the wheels, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice if the government was for the people for once.
So Radar is asking, he's getting advertisements for class action lawsuit against Harley Davidson about the rear shock. Have you heard anything about it? I have not. Ernest P. Ike says, I'm the electric guy, and I also think it's silly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Ernest is Shandoka Cycles, who comes to Smoke Out with those cool electric bikes. That's who that Ernest Ike is.
eBay Jake, let's go, Brandon. Jake, we missed you at Smoke Out this year, man.
Yeah, we did. And the sad part about it is we just can't blame Brandon. It's all of them,
right?
At this point.
That's it.
Stop using the excuse of it just being Brandon.
Yeah, let's demand a better class of elected official. How about that?
Yeah.
How about we start with that? Let's all get together. Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals. Let's all agree that we have piss poor leadership,
for Christ's
top
sake,
down.
Give us something that's going to work.
All right, man. Well, listen. Let's get into this. The High Seas Rally. I actually didn't know until we started talking about having Chip on the show. Is decades old. Decades.
Yeah.
What was he saying?
30 years.
Started as Hogs on the Seas.
What's that?
High Seas Rally?
No,
As Hogs
I'm sorry, not High Seas Rally. I got High Seas Rally on the brain. I meant the Four Corners Rally.
Are you excited you're going on the cruise, honey?
I kind of am, kind of am.
Don't forget your water wings.
But let's start that over. The Four Corners Rally is decades long.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, 34 years, I think, according to their advertisement. This year was 34 years.
Yeah, and he's got some great insight about it.
30.
He's got some great insight about it that I'm not gonna tramp on right here, telling you guys about. But I was excited to learn who was originally behind.
Yeah, that's super
starting
cool.
that. Yeah, so let's, rather than me put my foot any deeper into my mouth, let's actually go to Chip and get the real story. Just Hanging Out in the Shop is brought to you by Spectral Oils. Made in the USA since 1966, the best oil on planet Earth. Okay, Chip, I blew that already.
I was thinking about the High Seas rally as well. We were talking about that pre-show, I remember. So I had it on my brain too.
Oh, it's so many of us are getting things ready, and our day to day is filled with the details that are going to be this year's High Seas rally. But I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. I'm looking forward to the High Seas rally too.
So let me let you get into this and tell everybody about the beginnings of Four Corners Rally, because that blew my mind when you told me who originally put that together.
Well, it's a really great story for us here locally, and I think for the general motorcycle enthusiast community nationwide, it's a special story. And for those of you who don't know it, I'll just briefly tell you. The Four Corners Motorcycle Rally was started in 1994, I believe, is when they had the first event. And it was started by Ben Nighthorse Campbell, who at the time was the senator from Colorado. And he was known primarily for being a senator from Colorado, but as the first Native American senator in the United States. And he was famously known for many times while he was serving in the Senate, riding to the Capitol on his Harley-Davidson motorcycle, being stopped by Capitol Police and security because there's this guy riding up on a motorcycle to the Capitol. And likewise, going to the White House to meet with the president, being stopped at the front gate of the White House. And, if you've ever heard him tell the story in his talks, arriving at the White House, as a senator, typically is in a limousine with quite an entourage, but for him to show up on a Harley Davidson, I guess was quite a novelty in those days in Washington D.C. And sure enough, with his weight as a politician and his connections to the biker community, he was able to organize the first Four Corners Motorcycle Rally in Ignacio, Colorado, here in La Plata County, a neighboring community to Durango, and it quickly grew. On the Southern Ute Indian Reservation at their small casino and downs for the horse races to about 25,000 people showing up in the county within about 10 years. So at one point, it really overwhelmed our communities, not just ours, but the neighboring communities, much like a Sturgis situation where it just kind of bled over to all the hotel rooms. And because of his connections in government, he was also a former Olympian in Mexico in 1969 in jiu-jitsu. He represented the United States. So he was pretty known in the world before then, and through politics. He was able to bring Kyle Petty to our first rally, some 30 years ago. So these are pretty exciting things. And when I was here in the community as a businessman, and even as a youngster, I grew up with Ben and Linda Campbell Nighthorse, and he was a wrestling coach in our community. And, we always knew him as Ben, the guy that rode the motorcycle with the Indian headdress, later to become a senator and start the rally. And I was lucky enough to have dinner with his wife last night at a fundraiser, funny enough. And so small community guy, big stage. He brought everything he could to our community to get this rally started 30 years ago. Over the career of the rally, if you will, the life of it, it kind of came and went through the hands of a couple of different promoters, the Indian tribe, some local people in Ignacio, all along. Myself and others in the bar business and restaurant and motorcycle business tried to foster and support that kind of event in our community. And it finally got to a point where it was not sustainable by the promoters at hand. And I met Trevor and Katie Bird. My brother and I were able to partner with them. And we're now on our second year of owning the Four Corners Motorcycle Rally. And sure enough, Ben Nighthorse Campbell was at our event a couple weeks ago to present a Hall of Fame piece of jewelry. He's actually known as a Native American silversmith, very well known in the world for his artwork. And not only did he create the rally, but he also created a Hall of Fame ring that we've given to some of the early supporters and creators of our event. And so a couple of weeks ago, he actually came and we did a presentation where we recognized some of those kind of people. And he had a ring that he had created in his art gallery that we presented to some people that helped 30 years ago. So it's been quite a ride for the community, up and down. But we think Trevor and the families, we think we got it, and we got a lot of great support.
So we brought you on to talk about the rally, but I have to tell you, after finding that out, I have always really, really been interested in this man, and it's for it's for things like this. You know, like you said, he was never intimidated to not be exactly who he was, whether it was the motorcycle, the stuff that he did through the years for motorcycle rights was legendary, you know, but
he has done so much for the industry. And I mean, you're spot on. He never wavered once in the support of either when he was a Democrat and then when he switched to being a Republican. You know, he never wavered on any of that. And to this day, the reason why I'm involved is really because him and his wife came to my brother and I and Katie and Trevor Bird and said, look, this is a community thing. We need it to be a community event, and we need some people who can really get it there for us and get it back to what it used to be, you know, 15, 20 years ago, because it's such an economic driver for any community. And, you know, it's such a beautiful place to have a rally. You know, it's perfect. So they felt strongly about their legacy. And it was an opportunity for us to really revive what so many people in the industry at one time really loved and appreciated. And I think we got a good running start again. So,
well, I'll tell you what, like that was, you know, one of the things that caused me to reach out to you guys and get you on the show to talk about this is all the builders are talking about it. Yeah. You know, the images and stuff, like it's hard in today's social media game to get any kind of a buzz going. And you guys absolutely, you know, with the rally this year for sure achieved that. But we've been hearing so much, like from last year's event coming through to this year, and, you know, guys like our buddy Pat at Lead Sled, it really seems like you have some strong momentum behind you with this.
Well, thank you so much. And I think, you know, that's not to me, that's to the team that we've organized and put together to spearhead social media. And, you know, I'm not the younger generation anymore, so I recognize it's been a while since I've been cool. So we're trying to get some younger people involved to teach us all again what cool is. But, you know, it's been really a lot of work just to kind of get relevant in the industry, and even to go somewhere and meet yourself at a rally. You know, there's so much going on in our industry, and so many of these kind of wash and repeat events that we all see. You know, we really approach this saying we got to figure out what makes us unique and why do people want to come to our part of the world rather than somewhere else or in addition to. And it just kept coming back to, we're a small community. We have beautiful rides. We can really make people feel welcome. You know, we're within a good day's ride of a lot of good markets. And if you know about the $1 Million Highway, well, that's a bucket list ride for most of us. And that's right here in our community. Yeah. So a lot of people come just for the rides. And we're hoping that we can continue to build the content of our event with more stunt shows and more entertainment and more vendors and, you know, all those things that we like to see when we're not riding motorcycles.
Well, and that's, you know, going through the pictures that we started putting on in pre-show, you guys have all the stuff you would expect. You know, the Wall of Death is there, the Harley test ride fleet, the bands, the camping, you know, yeah, but
before you skip too fast, I know Heather was talking about dodgeball earlier before you got me on.
Yeah.
And on motorcycles. And, you know, I know you guys know the Ives brothers. And, you know, they're pretty fun and entertaining. But, I mean, maybe we start throwing dodgeballs at the Ives boys I'll talk to Kevin and Cody about that.
Don't give me any ideas.
Yeah, they'd love that.
Yeah.
No, but you know, I think it becomes a job of any motorcycle event, especially, you know, like through the times that we saw so many of them pop up. It seemed like for a while, like every city was like, hey, motorcycles is a great way to make some money for the city coffers. Everyone looks for that unique feature, and man, you guys really, really have it.
Oh, yeah. That's a picture of what we refer to as the, you know, section of the $1 Million Highway. And, you know, that goes between Durango, Colorado, up to Silverton, and then on to Ouray, Colorado. And if you want to continue a loop, you can then continue on to Ridgeway, Telluride, Colorado, and come back around to Durango. And it's about a 250-mile loop. But most people just do kind of the section between Durango and Silverton and Ouray, which is, you know, really primarily the scenic rides with the hairpin turns and the cliffs and no guardrails and the steam locomotive train, all those fun things. It's really on the $1 Million Highway, just north of town here. So within 15, 20 minutes of leaving Durango, you're going up the mountains into the Rocky Mountains, the San Juans, and you're on the $1 million highway pretty quick.
Yeah, no,
So that's a big draw for everybody. And even if you were to come to town and we weren't having a rally, you'd want to ride it, I'd go with you, because that's what we do here. It's as exciting for us to go do some of those rides as it would be for you coming. So
no, absolutely. And I am down. Like, I really want to hit this event now, because I always wanted to meet Ben. This riding, like, I've been all over this part of the country, but never in your part of it, never in the Four Corners part. I've been all around the outside, and like this, the pictures that we're looking at of the rides, man, I have got to get on some of these roads.
yeah, these are just amazing rides. And I talked to some buddies this morning that were, do you want to go up to Silverton today? And I was already in the busy, doing other things. But I mean, the locals here do these rides all the time. We love them. And when people come to town, we're so excited to show them rides, whether we're on our Harleys or we're on our ATVs up in the same mountains. Off this highway you're showing, there's hundreds of miles of Jeep roads, mining roads that connected all the old mining towns of Silverton and Lake City and Telluride. So if we're not riding street bikes, we actually were talking about going up and doing some ATVs to check out the colors. They're starting to change on the leaves. So it's just a great part of the world to do rides, and the camping is great. And I mean, I appreciate some of these bigger city venues we've been to in, Arizona and Florida, but we really do have the scenery here. We really do have the hospitality. We really do have the rides. And so many people in our community are excited to always share, something going on, that it makes it fun, I think, for people to come and they feel welcome. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a great area. I mean, otherwise than the event and all that stuff, just the scenic, the views, the riding, the weather. I mean, you got an amazing. You have all four corners. Let's say that. I mean,
well, the joke is, it's 300 days of sunshine a year
like that,
in Colorado, and we're pretty close to that, already. So we might get more this year. But yeah, we're 3 hours from Moab, so you can be in the true desert sandbox of motorized sports, if you will, and within an hour you can be at 10,000 feet on a Harley Davidson looking at 14,000 foot peaks.
Yeah.
So we're right in the middle of every kind of ride you can think of, and it's Colorado. We got great roads. We're not an interstate community, so we're pretty far from an interstate. So you gotta want to come here, but you can get here pretty easily from Grand Junction, Denver, Phoenix, Flagstaff. All those places are within a pretty quick hop. And we even trailer all the way to Sturgis ourselves, so we're not afraid to go too far to get from here to other places. So it's a pretty good place for everybody, I think.
Well, and the riding is epic, definitely. But how they say? Wait, there's more.
Yeah, but there's more.
But you guys do. You really pack a lot into this, man. I mean, the stunt shows, the racing. There's a lot going on.
Well, I just feel like any kind of event or festival, if you will, that we all attend, you're competing for the customer's attention in so many ways. You might have music, you might have vendors, but I think the bar has just been raised for every event to have a lot more content.
Yeah.
And, for us to schedule people and work out race teams to come in or stunt crews to come in and schedule those, it's just like working with bands or other kind of entertainment. You got to have a schedule available. They got to have room. So to put together the content for just a small weekend rally like ours, compared to maybe something big like a Daytona or Sturgis is, it's not the same, but it's still the same steps. And the customers really are looking for, they want more than just leather vendors and funnel cakes,
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear the narrow gauge train in the background going by right now. That's one of the biggest draws in our community, is the original Iron Horse, if you will, right? So
yeah, I want to come do that.
We try to play off the content in the community, but at ground zero, we all have some expectations of these events with the vendors and merchandise and food and beverage, and so you try to do at least that. But we're finding that people want to do some riding in the morning, and then in the afternoons they want to see the Ives brothers or something similar, maybe a flat track race. And when those things aren't going on, we gotta keep their attention with maybe some music We're going to try to bring in some more bike shows, maybe with Pat Patterson next year, and Magic Mike out of Vegas and those guys. We have some other bike shows going on. So we feel like the real goal as promoters, where we're at now in the growth of our event, we need to fill in some of those gaps in the content. So yeah, we're going to add in more stunt shows, more biker brawls, more walls of death in the form of, whatever Kyle and Cody want to do with the ball of steel or whatever the case may be. And then people are reaching out to us that want to come be part of this because of just, so much good feedback we've got. So content. And I think the other part we've learned is if you're going to talk about the content on social media and you're going to do a big game, you really got to back it up when people get on site.
Yeah.
So, it's a problem for all of us. We got to keep raising the bar because they expect more every time, right? So.
Well, let's go read a couple of the comments here because you have a lot of people that are talking about this. Rob Lation says, right on, Chip, Laconia is hurting because of its lack of content. And I think that's something we see, again and again. This is a recurring story. Any of the motorcycle rallies that forget to keep the motorcycle in the rally and, keep motorcycle people engaged.
Yeah, don't make it about spending money. Make it about the motorcycle.
It's community.
Yeah, absolutely. Troy Wasnick says 100 degrees to 3 feet of snow in a couple of hours. Pat Patterson says the racing is legit. Colorado riding is Rocky Mountain High. Bill Stevens, Durango to Silverton Railroad is epic. A lot of support here, and that's that's what I said about I got to do the railroad because that's one of my favorite things to do about going to new rallies and new places is finding things like the railroad, like the railroad, the train ride in Sturgis. If no one's ever done that, you're totally missing out.
The train is it's something that is really special to all of us in our community because it was really what built our part of the world. These narrow gauge trains going to the mining towns. That's what built this part of Colorado and better part of the West. And we're lucky enough here to have a family, the Harper family, who owns this train and a couple of others in the United States similar. They really believe in the community. They believe in the heritage and the history of what the train represents. And they don't just operate it, but they really participate in the community. And behind the scenes, they have been helping Trevor and Katie and I, my brother, for years with the rally, and they offer us support in ways that people never see. And so in our community, the train has really always been there for a lot of us and really helps us a lot. And for the motorcycle community, we have a great connection with the train family and community. And we've in the past even done photo shoots where you could bring your motorcycle and park it next to the steam locomotive and have a photographer take a picture of you with your Iron Horse and the original Iron Horse. Yeah. So we've even done some of those kind of rider experiences, if you will, activations. And in Silverton next year, we're hoping to do the same because that train, once it goes from Durango to Silverton 3 times a day. And it pulls right up into the middle of Silverton, not on Main Street, but pretty much downtown. And you could park your motorcycle right next to it and take as many pictures as you want. And so in the past, we've kind of formalized that, but we have been, the train family has offered, Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad has offered to accommodate us in Silverton and host us. We're meeting tomorrow morning with law enforcement from that community because they saw such an increase of traffic this time around that they see that it's time to get back in the game on their side and really be prepared to do that. So I think between the train, the rides, the other communities kind of wanting to get back on board, this rider experience between pictures of trains, great rides, hopefully good races, some good entertainment, some relevant vendors, to the community of bikers. I think we got a good formula right now.
Now, Pat mentioning that the racing is legit. I can see it because I'm still trying to figure out how you guys signed this cat right here. Like, I mean, but I'm making a joke, but the parallel of the two worlds, here's a guy in a complete race outfit with a race prepared motorcycle next to a guy with an Easy Rider helmet and a chopper.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's, one of you commented, it's not all about taking people's money.
Amen.
This is, some of my best friends in the world have come to me through the motorcycle rally industry, if you will, and sometimes we only see each other, once or twice a year if we're lucky. But over a period of 10 or 20 years, you really, you become friends with people you see once a year. And you, as you guys know, going on tour and going to events here and there, you start to see some of the same people. And it's really that community that we're trying to foster here in Durango, that you and I find at all these other great events. And part of that community is these guys that you're pointing out.
Yeah.
They're gonna ride what they brung, and it's good. We're open to it. It's all about riding and being part of the community. And I think for me personally, it's been probably the most rewarding part of getting in this industry is just the people I've met and some of those experiences. It's fun to go to a big Sturgis show and see a Skinnerd, but it's fun to see that guy on his bike in the dirt too.
Yeah, a lot of it too for people who have been in a long time, people who have done a bunch of events. You see people come there and it seems like all they do is pull their money out, and to be able to go hit a couple of these different things like the races, to see the Oz brothers, to be able to go run and ride. The only thing you're worried about doing is paying for your food and your drink instead of paying for everybody else to bring their show for them. It's nice to see it be for the rider, not for the event promoter. You know what I mean?
I think it's really important to, as an entrepreneur in this space, to really recognize that, there's some formulas out there to do events that are tried and true. And, to me, that's a promoter. That's the guy that goes from town to town, promotes, he moves on, and that's what he does. And we're really not that kind of a crew. That's not our intention, though we are promoters. We do need to break even and profit here to keep this machine going. But when we set this up, Trevor and I, we have our own businesses, and it was really more of a community service project on one hand. But yeah, we do own bars and motorcycle dealerships, and rallies do help us sell beer and motorcycles. But in the community of Durango, we know when we fill up every hotel room in town or every campsite in town, or we put a bunch of bikers in the restaurants or whatever the case may be along those lines, it lifts all the ships in the harbor. Yeah. And you see this at a lot of places, but there's a price to pay for that in some communities. And we don't want to be, before the show, we were talking a little bit about how some rallies and communities have evolved from being pretty hardcore to now they're becoming pretty soft around the edges. Sturgis might be an example of it. It's really has changed over time. And, for us, I think it's really important that you just have a place for the community that's familiar to them with things like what they expect, the kind of shows, the bikes, the it's familiar to them, but like anything new and new in the spice of life. But I think the expectations are getting higher. I think the audience is growing. It's not just bikers anymore. They're, the young guys are coming, they're bringing a lot of their friends, and you see families with kids. And so, it's a changing industry. And I think for any promoter, you can't just be a promoter and show up one day and sell tickets. You got to be part of the community. Right. You got to get a lot of people under the umbrella. And when we started this, we recognized that was the failure of previous promoters is they, in a sense, I don't know where to use the word greedy, but they didn't get enough people involved that had enough stake to really make it successful. Yeah. I think a community, you have to have law enforcement, you have to have volunteers, you have to have, all these different elements support you either directly or indirectly. And, that's...
And you have to be able to give back to those people. Because if you can't give back to them, if they can't profit, then they're not going to want to be a part of the event.
Well, one of the proudest things that we do is we have some nonprofit aspects of what we do. And when we set up our little company to do this, we had identified Building Homes for Heroes, which is a vet organization that we could benefit with some of our proceeds. And for many years before I ever became part of ownership in the event, I did promote a beer party out here on the street by my bar, and we give about 10 grand to Building Homes for Heroes every year. And really that was kind of what Trevor and Katie, my brother, found common ground was we'd like to give back to the communities. We have an interest in supporting the youth and the vets in our community. And so we said, let's do this, for the right reasons. If we can have a component that's a nonprofit, let's make sure we have it every year. And we're able to do that. And, you'd ask me about some other stuff. Of all the things we do with the Ives Brothers or the stunt shows or the races or the vendors or the bike shows, there's some of this nonprofit stuff that we are really proud of. And I know other events do it, but, one of the things you and I talked about was the missing and murdered persons indigenous ride that we did with some Native American organizations here locally. And the tribe was a big supporter of the rally in the beginning, and they still support us. But we thought this was a great opportunity to help spotlight something in their community that they really need help with, and it's the murdered and missing persons. And so we put together a ride from Durango, Harley-Davidson to Ignacio, Colorado, where the rally originally started, to the cultural center that the Southern Ute Indian tribe has. And we publicized it, and we were pretty excited about this. And, over the course of last year, I met people like you in the industry, and I met CEOs, and I met photographers, and, guys like Pat Patterson. I invited everybody to my rally, right? Hoping that I could get enough people to come that we could make a difference. And wouldn't you know it, that through our contacts with Harley-Davidson, my partner, Trevor, was able to extend an invitation to Jay-Z, the CEO of Harley-Davidson, and Brad in styling and design. And they made an effort to come to Durango, Colorado, to be in the missing and murdered indigenous persons motorcycle ride for a benefit. Ooh. And I see you have an image up there that Michael Licker was, gracious enough to come to our rally, first of all, but he was so complimentary of what we had put together on this ride, and he was so excited to photograph the celebrities, if you will, on this ride. And I know for a lot of you, you get to go to rallies all the time. You get to meet really cool people. You get to see really cool things. I mean, I've seen some really fun stuff at Sturgis and this and that, but the best moments for me are really with my friends like you or my friends back at camp, or just that 1 minute when you did get to, do something unique that maybe in your lifetime you wouldn't get to do. And, I've been so blessed knowing you guys that to have a motorcycle rally of my own with partners, and to have somebody like the CEO of Harley-Davidson and the VP and a guy like Michael Licker to photograph it was probably one of the proudest, business moves I've ever had, because it was for such a good cause. And it just represented so much of what Trevor and our families had done to really put together a good rally and a good community. And we were just so honored that, you guys recognized it, and you're having us here today. And Michael Licker took pictures. And, for 5 minutes of my weekend of beer and craziness, I got to ride with the CEO of Harley-Davidson, with the chief of the Indian tribe. And it was for a very special cause. And that was really special for us, because all that hard work, going to Sturgis, going to Daytona, meeting everybody, and inviting them to your tribe to get a 10-minute photo shoot put together, it really paid off. And of all the things we do, the nonprofit part is what we're the most proud of.
Right on, man. That's great. And that's the thing too. A lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand why Heather's head was just so big in the picture. But
it is those little things. It is those little things that you get to give back.
Yeah.
I think probably makes you feel better than all the crap you went through to make it all happen.
Well, it makes it tolerable.
Yeah, it does. It balances it out, because you can only do so much music and beer and people making fools of themselves. Somewhere along the line, you got to give it back.
And when when you're going down the highway with 50 motorcycles in your rearview mirror, and 2 of them are some of the most important guys in the industry, and then you got Michael on the back of your motorcycle backwards, with a gyroscopically stable camera, and you're trying to keep everything straight and in the shot. But to look in my rearview mirror for that 30 seconds, to see those 2 men on my left side and the other 50 people behind me, and a pace car in front of me, and to know what we were doing was really kind of what makes it all worthwhile. You're right. And it was one of those moments that's really special to me. And, I'm glad you guys appreciate those things, because that's why we're in this. It's about that part.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a ton of times. For me, we've been doing this forever. It seems like a lifetime. And it's our life. It's what we do. And like one of my special moments was a stupid little conversation with a few people in Laconia. You know what I mean? Like it didn't have anything to do with a motorcycle. It didn't have anything. It is those little things that make you feel like, wow, this all makes a difference, man. This is what it's all about right here, you know? So,
and, this common thread of motorcycles, it's, you wonder why our best friends turn out to be in the motorcycle industry. Well,
right.
Half of everything we all love, we all have in common.
Yeah.
We all love motorcycles. We all love music. And then there's some of us that really can appreciate these finer memories that we've created for ourselves and each other. And I really hope people come to our rally, have a memory that's, similar, like, God, that was so cool for 5 minutes. I got to, see a celebrity, a Pat Patterson, or, maybe, I don't want to tease Dump Truck.
Wait, you can't say celebrity and Pat Patterson in the same conversation.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
You said there was going to be cool people there, and then you said Pat Patterson.
Yeah, we could say escaped convict. We could say social miscreant. Like there's many other definitions.
Well, it's amazing I get anything done because everyone's been so fun in the industry, and I've been invited to so many great functions and got to network with everybody that, the community I've created for people here in Durango, I've been welcomed into a greater community in the industry. And I'm just so, I feel like I found my people in my home, and it's been so much fun. And to just keep perpetuating what we're all doing, I think is just, I'm really excited about next year and all of it. So.
Right on. Well, speaking of next year, let me get the website up here. Yeah. And Heather's going to put that out for everybody in a link. But August 29th to September 2nd, the 2024 Four Corners Motorcycle Rally. Get out to the website, make plans. A lot of our buddies are going to be there. It would not surprise me if one way or another we don't end up.
Dude, I'd love to go. Yeah,
finding
awesome.
a way to make this happen. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
maybe if Pat's nice to me this year, I'll go with him next year. But he has to be really nice to me. I'm not playing no games, Pat.
Right on.
Well,
listen.
I think, over the course of the next months, we'll have a better idea of what the schedule is going to look like. But we're really excited to have everybody. And, the timing at the end of the summer is kind of a last hurrah almost. Not the last one, but it can be for some of us. So hope you can get it on the calendar.
Well, let's set up a follow-up where we can either halfway through the year or getting closer to the event, let's get you on here again and talk about what's going on, because you guys are really making a lot of moves on this, and we want to keep on it for you.
Thank you so much. We are so excited for having your support and just taking the time to visit with us, and everything that you guys do in the community of motorcycles in the United States. We're grateful for people like you. You're the backbone of this, and you carry the torch year to year. So thank you so much.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll be talking to you again real soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
All right, so another great rally to put on the calendar. You might actually get to this one before me, you dirty bastard.
I don't know. That's again, if Pat's nice to me. Pat's never nice to me. I hate Pat.
Well, I was thinking if we play our cards right and if we actually follow our self-imposed deadlines, maybe I'll be able to ride over.
Is that clean air messing with your brain?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
All right, man. Listen, you are watching Shop Talk here on the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio. We still got lots of show left, especially Mr. Keith Bandit Ball and Bob K coming in to talk about the MRF, the IMA, the EPA, and the FTW. So don't go anywhere. You're watching Shop Talk. We're going to take a look at a cool feature bike on the other side. Hopefully, we have those guys in the studio. Don't go anywhere. Out of Focus is brought to you by Garage Build. Submit your build, share your passion. Powered by Dennis Kirk.
Jack DiGazio, East Syracuse, New York. Bike is the motor's a 76 shovelhead. I bought back in 1979. It's been in 3 frames. The frame was built for me by Peter Pens in Austria, shipped over to me. Front end's a Harman girder from Bill Holland, Executive Choppers. I had Mo Diaz do the paint. Hernan Diallo did all the engraving. And everything else I did the fab on it and put everything together. My garage is like a one-stall little garage. I got a lift in it. I got all my welders, all my tools, all the bikes I have. When I work, I do have no heat in it, so I have to have a kerosene heater to work on the bikes. If I have to do welding or grinding, I have to pull all the bikes out and cover them if it's raining or snowing, so I can do any welding or grinding on the bikes. I've got no, like I said, I've got no room at all. So I built a 1964 Sportster chopper that I built for Michael Lichter's show. Then I built a 82 digger that I got the frame from Arlen Fallon from Arlen Ness. And I got 2 bobbers I built, both 74 motors. And now I'm building a Frisco chopper with a 1974 shovel in it. All the engraving was done by Arlen Ness, put in a box and put away. And Arlen Fallon sold them to me. Shipped to me, and when you open the box with all the engraved parts from Ness, the newspapers say 1975 on them. That's just an honor to have them on the bike. Fabrication, I did all the steel work, all the metal work, roughed it in, and then when I shipped it down to Miami to Mo Diaz, he polished, finished everything off, made it look, the lines flow and everything. The twister was done by D-Twist in Toronto, Canada. He works with Mo the painter and Hernan the engraver and Darren all work together for the Lowrider and show in Vegas, and they make tricycles and bicycles. He twists the spokes, Mo does the fab and the paint, and Hernan does all the engraving on them. But yeah, all of them are involved in Lowrider suit in Southern Cal. So it was nice to have all 3 of them involved in this. It's just a fun bike to ride. It really is. So. My name is Jack Negazio from East Syracuse, New York, and I'm a dedicated garage builder.
The only thing standing between you and the open road is some garage time with the right parts and accessories to make your motorcycle roar. And that's why riders everywhere choose DennisKirk.com, the one stop you need to get your Harley back on the road. Our knowledgeable tech staff will help you navigate our more than 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories that are ready to ship today, with free shipping on all orders over $89. So tune up your ride and get ready for the next adventure. Ride more, wait less. Dennis Kirk.
Hey, it's Billy from Twisted Team. We're live in Sturgis and you're watching Shop Talk.
Everything we do at the track shapes what we build for the street and the dirt.
You can see how bad these guys want it. The race to the line.
For us, racing is not for the trophies or the glory. We compete because it makes everything we do faster, more durable, and tested to a higher standard. For S&S, racing is the ultimate in proven performance, and we've been proving it since 1958.
The product spotlight is brought to you by Drag Specialties, the world's largest distributor of aftermarket accessories. Hey, this is Chris with Cycle Source Greasing Gears TV, and this is your product spotlight. Today's product spotlight is on the hard body antique style Springer front end. This one in particular is at the 20-inch length, the stock configuration. They have them in a various arrangement of different lengths. That measurement is taken from the bottom of the lower triple tree to the center of the axle line. They come with a 1-inch OD steering stem. This is designed to take the Timken style bearings. The Springer comes fully assembled with inline top bracket and cast rockers. Everything ready to go with the Zerk fittings in place out the door. Also included are their 3/4 inch axle with spacers. Depending on what wheel you're using, you might have to adjust for that. The one thing I will mention is that this is like the vintage style Springers and has the side mount headlight mounts. you'll want to either get a headlight that accommodates that, or there's a couple companies like Freak Show Fab that make a bracket for it so that you can use any headlight. Now there are stock mounting tabs on this for both the brake and for the fender. In the stock capacity, we won't be using either one of those, so it's up to you what you do with that. You can hang a little stuff on it, it'll be kind of cute. Maybe that's where your ride bell goes, depending on how big it is. But this whole thing comes in at just over $1,000, which, you know, if you take a look at this thing, really nice chrome piece, good quality. You're getting all this for $1,000. Can't beat that deal. Check them out today at your local Mid-USA dealer. Tell them the guys at Grease and Gears TV sent you. Until next time, I'm Chris. This was your Product Spotlight. Okay, welcome back to the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio. I am Chris with Cycle Source, and we are headed into the second part of the show. No idea how that's going to go because everything's going crazy in the studio. I've completely lost control. I'm not sure if Heather's still with us. I'm not sure if our guests have the ability to get into the studio or not, so we're going to see. Sometimes it's...
I'm here. I just resent a link.
Sometimes it's just like that. I do if... Oh, wait a minute. I think we might have it. We might have it figured out.
Oh boy.
While you do that, do you want me to talk a little bit about the garage build off, smoke out?
Yeah, do something.
Update?
Yeah.
Little song and dance.
I'm gonna just make that. So garage build off, smoke out 2024. The submissions are coming in like crazy. You still have time to get your submission in. You go to smokeoutrally.com. Garage build off, follow those instructions and your submissions come in. If for some reason you can't upload all the pictures that you want to, you can email us at gbosmokeout@gmail.com and you can send extra pictures there. A few quick rules, I guess, if you want to call them rules.
Are there really rules?
Just because you know us does not mean you automatically in.
Well, if you know Mark.
If you know me, you're in.
There's going to be a few of us that are going to narrow it down to 24. And then from there, it will go to public opinion. It is for amateurs. In the history and honor of amateur shop-off, garage build-off is for amateur builders. If you are unsure if you're an amateur,
you're probably not.
But there is a line, you know. But if you have T-shirts, stickers on a shop name,
So
but if you're a painter,
over at the Smokeout Rally website, you can check out the Garage Build Off tab. It'll take you through all the information that you need to send in to us to be part of this, and the biggest thing is how we're actually going to do this. So we've enlisted the help of one of our veteran Big Mountain Run guys who actually put on, what's that? Who actually put on the the Sportster Challenge, yeah. And Matt Reel is who's going to be conducting all the management of this, and he's going to bring you guys through the process of narrowing it down from 24 to 12. 12 are actually going to get started on making a mission statement about what their process is, what their project's going to be, and we're going to take that down to 6 finalists that we hope to have manufacturers give us a parts budget and things that we can add into this to make it, you know, really a neat thing. And then by Smoke Out, 6 guys will be on display with their projects. We're going to have a 20-40-40 system of voting that, you know, a lot like we used to do with In Motion, and then we're going to pick a garage build-off champion. So pretty neat.
I love that system that you came up with because, and I hate to say this, but there have been shows in the past where either the winners have been predetermined or it has been strictly a popularity contest and not necessarily on the merit of the whole motorcycle.
Yeah.
And with this system that you developed, it's impossible for either of those things to happen.
Yep. So,
and there is going to be a shakedown ride, right?
What's that?
There will be a shakedown ride,
absolutely.
like all bikes have.
Yeah. And anything that we do like this, we try to, I mean, obviously,
real.
not for the Legends Gallery, because that's a gallery showing, but anything that we do like this, you have to have a riding motorcycle. Otherwise, it's just not really a motorcycle.
It's art.
Yep. And art is good, but not for all things. Okay, so check it out. We do have our next guest in here, Mr. Keith Bandit Ball from Bikernet.com. If you're not subscribed to Bikernet, it's ridiculous. This is the man
Where have you been?
Who pioneered
Yes.
so much about motorcycle and motorcycle rights, the digital access of information,
And has the coolest office ever on the planet.
Right. So let's go to the airways and get Mr. Ball on.
Just Hanging Out in the Shop is brought to you by Spectro Oils. Made in the USA since 1966, the best oil on planet Earth.
From deep in the recesses of Bikernet headquarters.
That's right. We're in the cave.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, you look like you're peering in through a window from a dark room.
It is. It's the darkest room.
So listen, we missed you so much at the meeting of the minds, and all I could do, I kept repeating to everybody that, like, man, if Keith was here, Keith is the smart one. Keith is the one that actually knows facts and figures. Like, you have to go to bikernet.com. But there was so much talk, so much good support came out of that whole meeting, and there's a real movement that's afoot, man, and it's, you're gonna end up being an awful big part of this.
Well, it's about goddamn time.
Right.
We had a movement. I mean, honestly, we're looking down the barrel of losing everything that we've ever built, and now people are beginning to wake up. So I think this is going to be a big year.
Yeah, that was a really great part of the talk. We got together, Bob K and I think Bob might be on here, but I don't see his video yet. So Bob, if you can hear us, I don't think you're completely connected. But Bob K and I were joined by Kirk Willard from the MRF, and we had a great roundtable discussion. And that was the biggest thing, is we narrowed down that, it's one thing to say that combustion engines are on the chopping block, and it's one thing to say another round of fighting for motorcycle rights, but really, at the end of all of it, you can see the connection to this, where we're starting to lose our culture. We're starting to lose a sense of ourselves through it, because the places and the methods that we used to all gather are changing. The way they have us divided up into groups, it's all really put the whole lifestyle that we've had for, my whole life, is putting all of that in jeopardy.
Did Kirk, did he discuss what I sent to him and what I sent to you?
He never really said. So the way that they did it, they held it like a question and answer. They would ask us a question one at a time, and we'd have an opportunity to answer. So he didn't really say any part of it. This is from Keith, but tell me what you're talking about particular.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll read this to you, because I sent it to him a few days before the event. I came down with COVID and I couldn't make it out, but I really wanted to get across something, and it really had a lot to do with the MRF. So here's how it went. I said, just in case you need my input to kick off the panel discussion, I've tried to write a brief intro and a conclusion. Use it as you please. I wrote it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it goes like this. Internal combustion engine bans, where did they come from? One of our Hall of Famers has been on the case for over 15 years. Keith Bandit Ball watched Al Gore's compelling documentary in 2007 and was impressed, but he asked questions and discovered that Al basically lied to kids all over the world for power and personal gain. His wealth skyrocketed from a few million to over 400 million. His CO2 doomsday has caused an attack on every form of our well-being, from heaters to gas stoves, and in particular, internal combustion engines. Keith started to let his, I could say it now, I started to let my Bikernet readers know the scientific truth and searched for a solution. It wasn't until this year, through the leadership of the MRF, and I started to see a small light at the end of the daily darkening tunnel. We all witnessed leaders of the MIC waking up. We watched SEMA, the largest automotive organization, stand up, and last week, with the help of the MRF, HR 1435 passed 222 to 190 to stop the ICE vehicle mandates. And that included 8 Democrats. But the premise remains, we are doomed unless we change the climate by eliminating CO2. Inspired by a growing number of organizations fighting back, I created a resolution to force Congress to challenge and study the bottom line on a national stage. With the help of Kirk and the board of the MRF, including Rocky, their lobbyist, we made minor successes in South Dakota. All we want is the truth, to expose the untruths, level the playing field, and make freedom a priority again. Okay, so that was my intro. So let me read you my wrap-up real quickly, and then we can go on and discuss this.
Absolutely.
Just to wrap this up, I wanted to mention that we're not alone in the fight for ICE vehicles and scientific truth. There are scientific groups all over the world stepping up, including 1,600 scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, who have signed a declaration, there is no climate emergency. But we must be vigilant. 3 weeks ago in Montana, a judge sided with a group of kids who were paid to sue the state to take control of the entire energy sector. I immediately reached out to the MRF and ultimately to Rocky, their lobbyist. I also reached out to a physicist in Montana, Ed Berry, who recently beat an alarmist lawsuit in Montana. I also reached out to Greg Wrightstone, the executive director of the CO2 Coalition, a group of scientists who are trying to spread the good word about CO2 and prevent misinformation. Rocky immediately spoke to a legislator's staff in Montana, and between this legislator, the CO2 Coalition, and Ed Berry, a team is in place to defeat this ruling during the appeal process. The MRF was on the case. And finally, just a final note, a presidential candidate now is stepping up against the doomsday movement. Vivek has publicly stated climate alarmists are wrong. So there you have it. That's really what I wanted to get across.
No, absolutely. And, I want to, real quick, I just want to go to one of the comments here because Aaron Reese chimes in. A lot of people are putting up support for you and everything, and they're, giving you a lot of props for all the work you've done for your career. Aaron says electrical vehicles create more CO2 than any gas vehicle, and that's before an electrical vehicle even goes 1 mile. I'd like to know more about that and what that's based on. Have you ever heard this argument?
There's a lot of information out like that. Let me see, I'm fighting with my computer screen. And I'm sure I could dig up and find some reports on that and send it over to you.
Oh, right on. One of the things that I did reiterate from conversations with you, I told him, I said, listen, in my opinion, and I have to say opinion because I don't have any concrete evidence of this, but I believe the EPA to be a subversion of the Constitution to begin with because they're not elected officials. So I discount a lot of the work that they do based on that, but the other part of that is they do all of this work without anything substantial backing it up. You know, nobody ever makes them prove anything.
They don't show their math ever.
Yeah, they don't ever show their math. They don't ever show where this comes from. They don't have anything to substantiate the things that they say. They just put things out as mandates, and we're supposed to follow them blindly.
And it affects our lives, like substantially affects our lives.
Well, you're absolutely right. If they don't have the information, they make it up, and then they force it on us. And you're absolutely right, Chris. They are not, the rules they come up with are not congressionally approved, so they don't ever get tested. Yeah, it's a real problem. And now, because of these bills that have been passed that have given the federal government so much money, like $2 trillion, they just start agencies every other day.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. That's our elected officials. How do they get away with doing what they're doing?
Well, and that's, Mark, that's the thing. Like, in today's world, it's all about the workaround.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they, whether you're talking about, the president and all of a sudden him bypassing Congress with the power of the pen. Every president that gets in sits down for the first 30 days of office and writes their own executive orders. And, like Keith is saying, with them making all these committees, because if they make these committees now, like he said, then Congress doesn't have to back this stuff up. Congress doesn't have to approve it.
Yeah.
And that is a violation of the terms of our Constitution, man. And I don't want to get all crazy political on you guys, but like, that's the deal. The Constitution gives us rights. There's some rights that we get without the Constitution, but it gives us rights that any laws that we're going to have to abide by are made by our elected officials. And that should be the end of that story. And it's not with the EPA and many other things too. But
and I don't understand, because it affects the petroleum industry, which, without the petroleum industry and all general, resources, look at the money lost that goes into the government for that. So you'd figure they'd want to push that issue. And like I said, they're not showing their math. They're giving you information that nobody has the real truth on, and it's affecting what you pay in your emissions inspections, what you can and can't do to your custom cars and bikes. Like, it's affecting everything that you do. And
the thing that Keith is bringing out here, let me pull this back up for you guys, because Keith, we talked about this earlier in the show. We talked about HR 1435, and the importance of this is, like, if people don't know what's been going on here, one state at a time, believe this shit or not, one state at a time has actually set a calendar date of when they were going to forbid the sale of internal combustion engines, of any vehicle with an internal combustion engine. And I think, and Keith, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think what I heard at the meeting of the minds was we were up to like 12 states that had a date set in stone that they were going to actually call for the end of sale of internal combustion engins.
How is that even possible?
Correct.
Yeah, that the whole thing doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. The 1435 is a veto against all of that, because it's actually going to trump any state rule about the sale of internal combustion, and it's actually given, they're doing it under the right for people to choose. You know what I mean? Which is ultimately, I guess,
the problem with 1435 is that I really doubt that it's going to pass the Senate, and it won't be signed by the president. So it's a message we're sending, but I doubt if it'll do anything.
But doesn't that give us a line in the sand at least? Doesn't that at least give us a point of contention? It's not it would be a precedent set if it actually did get signed into law, but it's at least a point where we say, okay, no further than right here. You know what I mean? And now maybe some of the people that would be in line for that office will start thinking about what their position has to be, that it's not just going to be a free pass.
Well, the short answer to that question is no. It's not going to stop anything that's happening once it doesn't pass the Senate. The real problem to me is that the premise behind all this, and like the other gentleman mentioned, the petroleum industry.
Yeah.
Well, these people want to virtually end the petroleum industry. There are protesters out there that say leave oil in the ground. I did an article recently on Bikernet that's really a kick about the uses of oil. And, we came up with like things that were like hundreds of things that are used in the medical profession, including medicines that all come from fossil fuels.
Right on.
Which fossil fuels is really an incorrect definition. It's really petroleum product. It really doesn't come from fossils. But the whole notion that CO2 is a pollutant needs to be cracked. And that's when I talked about my intro, what we were working on is a resolution to put before Congress that would force them to face the facts. And I could actually read you that resolution. It's pretty interesting, but it's just designed to seek out the truth. Because we can fight ice bans, we can fight the ban to eliminate gas stoves. We can, until we fight the doomsday, they're going to keep coming after us.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
But here's the point. Here's the real wild point of it all, is that we can fight doomsday.
Yeah.
Just because Al Gore said, "Oh, you're a denier if you say anything against it." Well, unfortunately, he's wrong. That there's tons of information against it. There's tons of information pro CO2. Actually, there are reports that say, when CO2 gets below 250 parts per million, plants will start to die.
Yeah.
And we got dangerously close to that before the industrial age and through the industrial age. Now, some scientists don't believe that mankind really puts out that much CO2. Some scientists believe we did put out extra CO2, and that CO2 saved plant life and actually has made the earth greener. So it's these kind of facts that the general public needs to know. And they need to know that CO2 from an exhaust pipe, CO2 naturally is exactly the same molecule.
I didn't know that. I should be paying attention to you more, see?
That's right.
Damn it.
That's right. There's going to be a pop quiz a little later.
You're going to be tested.
I was just going to say, I just busted myself. Let's see. I want to see real quick if we got Bob, if he made it in with us. Bob.
Oh, boy.
God, look at that beard.
Bob, do me a favor and turn your cell phone sideways. And we're going to try to bring Mr. K in with us. So Bob was actually...
Hey, am I in?
You are.
You're in.
Holy shit.
God, you look like a monk.
I feel like a monk.
I
got off the plane and got in the cab and came right over.
Right.
Do me a favor, Bob. Turn your cell phone sideways for us. There you go.
All right. Very cool.
So
I caught a lot of the conversation, and so I can kind of get right in when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Don't let me stop you.
Stage is yours.
Well, you were talking about the specifics of the laws and what's going on in Washington, which obviously is very important. But what I found, I was at the Smokeout, obviously, and then I was at Bikes, Blues, and Barbecues. going around to a lot of the independent dealers trying to get them involved now that we have the IMA set up, the Independent Motorcycle Aftermarket. And Keith, you wouldn't believe the guys that are not aware of what's going on. So part of our challenge here is really getting this word out. The MRF, and Chris will testify, has done a great job with putting a little brochure together for us. We now have all our MRF applications updated to include the IMA. We just got to get on the phone. I personally am going to get on the phone and call those custom builders and independent shops that I've dealt with doing the shows over the past 15 years. Call guys like Danny Fitzmaurice over at Zippers with their Thundermax, and talk to Chris Codwell, who does a lot of tuning, and make them understand where we're at right now and how important this whole deal really is.
Yeah, that was amazing. Actually, Keith, I started my part of this whole thing off by apologizing to everybody there, because these guys obviously, especially in the MRF and all the SMROs that support them and everything, they're obviously doing the work, and they're making sure that we have the information, especially the MRF. The MRF, we get news briefs from them all the time, and I had to apologize because based on what Bob found going around and having all this discussion, how few people knew how the deck is set against us. That means I've failed at delivering this message. And when I thought about it, like, I get their their briefs in, and I republish them, but I think there's got to be something in the delivery that we can do better, because anyone who rides a motorcycle cares about the freedom that goes along with riding the motorcycle. I can't believe that it's just that we've reached a position where everyone's numb and they don't care about it.
I think they just don't know. They're not informed enough.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Keith.
Let me tell you a little bit. Like, I individually talked. We had an industry party at Bikes Blue Barbecue, so I went around handing out these invitations, and I personally talked to everybody about this when I was doing that. And here's what I found out. There's kind of two things going on. There's a lot of small shops that they're so busy, and the day-to-day trying to get their parts and get the next job lined up and whatever else is taking up their day, they're just not paying attention to anything beyond their front door. And then you got the older guys. I went to see Joe at Happy Trails and some of these guys that have been doing it as long as we have, and they're just, pardon me, they're just, fuck it, I've been doing it this way my whole life, I'm going to keep doing it, and tough shit, they're not going to come down on me. So that's kind of what we're fighting with this whole deal.
Mr. Ball?
Well, when you're fighting it, you're talking about fighting to get them involved?
And to understand and then get involved.
Okay. I feel like a lot of it, and what I need to do more with you, Bob, but I do with Chris all the time, is I read reports all the time, and if I feel like it's something concise, I can send it out. Well, I'll send it to Kirk, and I send it to Chris, and we need to share this information. The scientific information that basically proves that there's nothing wrong with petroleum products, there's nothing wrong with CO2, and we need to fight back, and we need to make it clear. And actually, Vivek is the one guy. It just blows my mind to watch that guy come right out on stage and say, climate alarmism is bullshit.
Well, and obviously, Keith, I've learned that from you, and because you've given me a lot of that information over the years, especially when Chris got me involved with this IMA deal, to get that organized and started. So the trick really is going to be to get them to join the IMA, and then the MRF will get that information to them. So we got to get them to join. And that's going to take those personal calls. and Chris will tell you, when I got up there and did my little speech on the panel, and I've learned this from you, I basically told him, I said, listen, a cow's fart puts out more emissions than a motorcycle.
He actually blamed that on you, Keith. He actually said, Keith
Well,
Ball will tell you that a cow's fart.
But because we know that it's all bullshit. But we got to get them to pay attention. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
We can send them all the reports, but if they don't read them, if they're too busy, so I really believe if we get them to join the IMA, MRF is going to get those. You get it to Kirk, and they'll get that information out. He has promised us that. Plus, he will keep us updated on anything that goes on with the lobbyists and any other stuff that we bring before him. So
I'll tell you, that was a big thing, Keith. Was one of the things that we learned. Like they had whole workshops that they were teaching their leadership how to be more effective with social media and how to be on messaging, and they're making big strides in renewed communication skills. Like they really have a good plan on communicating to more than the existing membership body. They're really looking for new ways to do that.
one of the things that I talk to Fred about a lot is how to get the industry involved in the meeting of the minds. We really need to have a lot of guys from the industry there and not just SMRO leaders.
Yeah, absolutely.
The numbers were down this year. I'd like to see them doubled for next year.
I mean, you'd figure awareness, and then you'd also figure that these people are losing money. This is going to cost them their businesses. That once they get what Bob K's feeding them, that they have to come on board. It doesn't make sense how they would not be a part of this.
But dude, that's the thing that Bob is saying. When Bob is going around, I wish I had the card. Do you have the card, Bob, that the MRF made up? Because
give me a second. I'll go grab one out of my. I mean, I literally threw everything down and came out here. So let me go grab one. I'll be right back.
But that's what Bob's saying. So on the back of the IMA card, because MRF made us these great little cards that have information about the Independent Motorcycle Aftermarket Council. On the back of it are like 6 of the key issues that we face right now, and it's all the stuff that we're talking about. And just like you said, if they knew, if anybody that has anything to do with the motorcycles as part of how they make their living or how they enjoy their life,
awareness,
they would have that awareness. But what Bob is saying is those messages are not drilling down.
Right.
We're not getting that information out enough.
So it's almost like the government's sneakily trying to put this through without anybody catching on to it.
Well, they absolutely are.
Right.
And one of the things they want to eliminate is population.
Right.
You know, Keith, what I told the guys is that, you know, again, this whole climate thing is a real farce. And what they really want, and they're using that to try to get at us, what they really want to do, and what it really is all about, is control. They want to control us.
Right.
And because of our basic independent attitude and stubbornness, they're not going to let us, we're not going to let them control us, so then they want to get rid of us.
So read your card.
So on the card, on the front half, they talk about, and first, to your point of getting the industry involved, you are absolutely correct. And I think through this independent motorcycle aftermarket, that's how we do it. So they've taken some excerpts from the press releases that we've put out there about the IMA, and they talk about that on the front and what we're doing, and we're going to have our council to review all this stuff that comes through the network. But what they've done on the back is they talk about the right to repair, and they have a paragraph on that, the right to modify, and what the MRF has defeated in the 90s with the paint and chrome deal, you know, to limit our modifications to just color and chrome. They talk about renewable fuels and the proper fuels we need to run our bikes, and the internal combustion engines, and how we're being targeted. And then another deal was end of life directives that are being big in Europe now, where they haven't really put out the exact definition of what the end of life is, but after a certain number of years or whatever they decide, we won't be able to sell our motorcycles. We'll only be able to scrap them. And then the last part of it is protecting the motorcycle ecosystem. So they have this all lined out on this neat little card. You got the front here with the IMA logo. On the back, they do that. So we got a bunch of these that we can get more and getting these out. And the way I went at these dealers, I went in and I said, so listen, I have an independent shop, and tell me, how much of your business is installing exhaust, intake, and cams? And they're all in that 30 to 45% range. I said, so if we don't address this, what are you going to do when you can't do that? And that got their attention.
Yep.
It came down to, like Mark was saying, the dollars and cents that they're going to lose. So we got to. That's how we get their attention is relating it to dollars and cents. And again, I think the MRF has been so receptive to this IMA movement, and what I have to do is I have to call my friends like Danny Fitzmaurice, like John from Mid USA, and these guys that service a lot of the independent dealers, get those guys to join, and then maybe get them to direct some of these cards and information out to the independent dealers that they serve. So we get, because just us calling individually, it's going to take a while. We need to get a multiplier type effect going on to make this happen, like you said, as ASAP.
So would it make a difference to get it to the actual people, the masses, or you directly have to go to the industry people themselves? I mean, if you bring this awareness to, say, every customer that's building a bike, you get somebody like Dennis Kirk or Lowbrow, put one of them cards in every package, let everybody know what's going on. Would that make a difference? Like, why can't you do that? Why can't you make the masses aware of this, and then they can all start writing their senators, their congressmen,
ideally
blow this up?
And that's exactly, Mark, you're spot on, because I think the power is in numbers.
It's in the people, hands down.
The power is in numbers, and this is an instance where, I mean, I hate to sound cliche, but your vote matters. Your voice needs to be heard.
Well, and that's why I wonder, like, as much as I agree with Bob, somebody, like, historically, people will pay attention when something bites them in the wallet. Right. But in our culture, man, like, freedom was always the ultimate, kind of ground level that we were all on. What happened to explaining to them that, like, hey, this is an effect on your freedom. Like what one person just said, the whole point of bikes is that they have to be individual. And I put this thing out when we talked about this in Sturgis at the IMA meeting. We talked about the fact that, we joke and shit ends up on T-shirts where we say the Great American Freedom Machine, but it really is. That individuality is a representation of something that's unique to American culture, or has been for a long time, is our emotional connection to our vehicles, our need to have them individualized and personalized to fit us. And for this agenda to go through, that is the number one enemy. The number one enemy of this agenda is that personal connection to your vehicles, because if they can strip that away, and a utilitarian identification is what your vehicle is all about. It's just about where you need to drive it to work. Yeah. You need to do this with it. You need to take the kids to soccer. It won't matter what you're driving. It won't matter to anybody at that point. And they know
VW bugs. Yeah, it's a shame. But to me, it sounds like the masses. It sounds to me like the more you get the awareness out, even to the home garage builder, in everybody, the automotive, one's this flip over and turn into the whole car industry.
And that's Keith, you can testify to this because you've been trying to work at SEMA for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Putting a group together that was going to have strength through their already existing framework. But what have they done?
Well, they're coming around. But, it's a big organization. They want to control it their own way. I agree with what he was saying about the masses, even to get that information out. And maybe we should talk to the guys at Dennis Kirk and some of these guys and see if they'll put your form into every one of their packages that goes out. I know they do that from time to time.
Yeah.
The numbers are definitely the way. Heather and Mark are right. The MRF has been struggling a little bit with recruiting new members. And we feel that this is an avenue. They feel that this is an avenue to increase that. So if we get, and they can, and one of the big things is, because I've tried to do this with the MIC before, but they wanted a huge fee to join. And I always felt that it had to be $100 or $150 tops for these dealers and less for individuals. Well, the MRF jumped right on board. So for a dealer to join, it's $100 for the year. For an individual, it's only $35. And we put out a goal for next year at Daytona to have 200 dealers at our Daytona meeting. And we put that out to everybody at the MRF. And numbers matter. If we don't have numbers, it doesn't matter to our senators and our Congress people.
Right.
It's not going to matter. I mean, in reality, the MRF is behind us 1,000%, but we need numbers to make any effect. Yeah, I mean, you know that better than anybody.
And if you told anybody that rode a bike that this is going to affect their, customizing or any of that stuff, they're paying that $35 to become a member of that.
Well, and here's the important thing to say about that too, just so you guys understand. The MRF, the reason why we have picked this organization to be behind, and I'm not going to talk about any other organization, what they do or don't do, but the MRF does not hold pool tournaments. They do not hold toy rides.
Yeah.
They don't. The only thing these people do is go to Washington and watchdog for motorcycle rights. That's all they do. So any money that you give to them, to this cause, is going to further that cause. It's going to go towards making sure lobbyists are going up on the hill and they're fighting for your rights, making sure that someone is there to see what the government officials are trying to pull next in the way of motorcycle rights and get it back to us so that we have the information. So, when you think about that $35 or $100, that's not a lot to help these people do that job.
Well, and Mark, even, like you said, the right to customize your motorcycle, eventually, and I don't think it's going to be too far in the future, that they're going to be fighting for our rights to have a motorcycle.
Right, absolutely.
Let alone customize a motorcycle.
Well, what Bob was saying about end of life, Heather, the end of life directive, like if nobody understands that language, they're talking about what happens at the end of the life of the motorcycle, at the end of the life of the person. Where do those motorcycles go? Would you even be able to transfer them? That's what that's talking about.
Right, and that's just absolutely asinine.
Anybody that doesn't want to join, we're sending them a bag of cow farts.
And your honor, Keith.
And we, and I will say, and I need to get in touch with Kurt and Fred, because there are a couple of the bigger retailers that are absolutely willing to put
numbers.
A flyer in a package, because at the end of the day, if they're not willing to do it, they're jeopardizing their own business.
Dude, and like Bob said,
and anybody who sells motorcycle parts should be willing to put one of these, some information in their package.
And like Bob said, I mean, once you start affecting, once you get the masses involved and you start affecting these senators and these congressmen getting elected, because now they're not getting the votes because they're denying you your rights, your future, it's got to make a difference. Somewhere along the line, it has to.
See, you have to understand the way the MRF does this with that recent, 1445 that got passed, whatever it was. Once you're part of the MRF and that law is coming up for vote, they will send you an email that says to contact your congressperson, and they tell you who your congressperson is.
Yeah.
And basically, all you got to do is click it.
Yeah, they do all the work.
Them to vote for this thing to pass, and that's how they do it. So that's another reason why the masses are so important.
Yeah, God, this could go on for 3 days. I mean, this conversation's awesome, and people that don't know it and don't pay attention to it, like, dude, you're giving up. You're right. You're giving up your life.
There's quite a few people asking for information to be put on the screen about how to join this. If you go to Heather's put the link up already for the Facebook group that was created for the independent motorcycle aftermarket. Now, like Bob said, let's be clear about this. You don't have to be a shop. You don't have to be, you can be a shop, a parts manufacturer, a mechanic, a racer. Like if your life in any way is attached to the motorcycle industry, you're welcome to this. We will get you all the information through this. If you're part of this, you can go over to Instagram. We just got an Instagram page up for it. But ultimately, over to the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, where you can see here they had a nice press release up for industry veteran Bob Kay leading the Independent Motorcycle Aftermarket Council. But if you go to MRF, to their website, which Heather will put that site up for you as well, there's all of the
information. And the other thing about this too is, like, if you think about it, if you do, anybody that's getting involved advertising, or if you do the research, I mean, look at Keith's history. The guy's a legend in what he's brought to the table. Bob Kay, for what he's done, what he's been a part of this industry. Also, the past few years, people more and more with the hamster, apparently he got an award here this couple days ago. With his history, with Chris's history, what he has. If you don't believe that these people are here advocating and helping you forward, you're nuts, man. These are the people you're going to keep riding.
At the meeting of the minds, like, one of the questions the moderator asked me, Fred was a moderator, and he asked me, something about what we do. Like, I actually referred to you, Keith, and Rogue, and I said, can you imagine what those guys would have done back in the day? I said they would have burnt the Capitol building to the fucking ground.
Right.
I said they would have burned it to the ground. I said, what are we doing? I said, let's start with having a zero voluntary compliance standard to meet. But we have to do something, because in comparison to what the previous generation did on our behalf for rights at this point, we've done nothing so far.
And you're proving a great point right there, because the government is what jumped in and made things change from what people like Keith and Rogue and all those did back then. They made it wrong to stand up for yourself when people like, these guys were fighting for not only themselves, but for you. Now you can't even fight for yourself, and you're letting the government do that to you. So if you don't get in here, you don't start stopping. And again, everybody's going to be driving a Volkswagen Bug. We're all going to have the same haircuts. I mean,
they're going to be
ridiculous.
Electric too, and that's going to suck even worse.
Yep. It's
as long as I got the same beard as you, Mark, I'll be okay.
I don't know, Bob. Me and you sort of look like we've been hanging out at the same barber. I don't even know what's going on over there.
Chris, you brought up 3 great points. One is control, and that's what these people are after. And we remember back in the 70s where we repealed helmet laws all over the country through protests and getting out there and fighting and letting the legislators know we didn't want helmet laws. Well, then a woman came along and took over the DOT, and she came up with the public burden theory. Joan Claybrook did that. Well, the public burden theory was that it's costing the public every time a motorcyclist who's not wearing a helmet gets in an accident. Well, so all the guys, all the SMROs had to go back and regroup and come at it again. And they lost a bunch of states, but then they got them back, and we're about the same as we were. But the third point that you brought up, Chris, is the power of motorcycling, the biker power. And we have it. We just need to figure out how to harness it again, because it could become a major player in this whole net zero anti-CO2 movement that's false. So it's there. We got to harness it.
Let me explain why we call it the IMA. That'll help some people. When a bunch of dealers first came to Chris and myself, they wanted us to focus on independent dealers. There's other things besides this, the internal combustion ban and things like that going on that he wanted us help with. And Chris was very insistent that it's not just dealers, but it's anybody and everybody that's involved in this. And that's why it says the independent motorcycle aftermarket, because it's not just the motorcycles, it's our culture that's being threatened right now. And the companies that work for our culture, the guys that build bikes in the garages, the guys that sell leather, even the guys that sell coffee and cigars that go to all the motorcycle events, it's all part of our culture. So it's our whole culture and way of life that is being threatened right now.
No, absolutely. And Keith, to go back to what you were talking about for a minute, one of the things I did in the middle of the presentation we were doing, I asked everybody to hold up their hand if they got an Amazon box within the last month. And most of the room held their hand up. And I said, now, can you tell me why, compared to motorcycle emissions, why you don't hear a single person talking about the environmental impact of all those boxes? Can you tell me? Because you get an Amazon order, it's at least one box inside of another box. Sometimes 2 or 3 boxes. Sometimes all of that leads to a piece of cardboard with something vacuum packed with plastic on it. I said, isn't it funny how our government picks and chooses which industry they're going to shit on? And I said the reason they do that is because they're bullies, and bullies like to pick an easy fight so that they can show everybody else how they can kick somebody's ass. I said, motorcycles, whether you like to hear this or not, motorcycles are an easy fight because we're not that big. We're not that big of an industry. When you compare fighting the whole motorcycle industry versus fighting the guy that owns Amazon, the government's not going to take that fight on first. They're going to pick on somebody like us where they can get an easy win and scare everybody else.
And they make so much more from Amazon than they do from the bike industry.
Yep.
This is an easy excuse.
Well, we're also very fragmented. So they can kind of, go at different points of us and, kind of separate us a little bit, and which is more important, why we have to all stick together. You have to realize why we had this association with the MRF and the IMA. When you go to the bigger companies like Harley and Honda, they are going to voluntarily comply. They have stock, they have to holders, they have to be responsible. They have a board of directors they're responsible to. So they're driven by not the culture, not the passion of motorcycles. They're driven by the almighty dollar. So they're going to voluntarily comply with whatever they have to keep their business alive.
Oh, look.
Then that means the franchise dealers are going to voluntarily comply. So who in the world is standing up for the independent dealers and this culture that we've built? That's why we have the IMA and the MRF, like Chris said in the beginning. Their motivation is clear and simple and clean. It's about our rights, and they're going to fight for them without any distractions of stockholders and pool tournaments and whatnot.
Keith, on that subject about the dealers and the manufacturers, what do you make of the BMW stop sale?
Well, I guess it does have to do with emissions that they've been pushing their luck, and they kind of got their ass handed to them, and so they had to shut down importing ICE vehicles, and they can only sell electric motorcycles until they get it straightened out.
So the reason I'm asking you this is because we were going from agency to agency looking for someone that could actually illustrate exactly how it went down, because all you're reading about in the reports is the fact that it was a self-imposed stop sale of new and used motorcycles through their dealer network. But we couldn't find anything that said that, this was results of fines from the federal government or sanctions from the federal government. Is there something out there we're missing?
I'm not sure. We'll have to keep digging.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It was a hot topic all around the meeting of the minds when the news first broke, because everyone just took for granted that this was a reactive measure based on something that happened with the federal government. We haven't been able to find that yet, but like he said, we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. Well, it was a hell of a time, though, man. I mean, big honor for Bob and I to both be there. This was our first time being at a meeting of the minds, and look at this. Speaking of big honors, the Thomas Paine Award. How about that?
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Absolutely. Good for you, my man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well,
it's a shame
would
it's
you guys
not.
like to hear the resolution I put together with the MRF?
Yeah, absolutely.
To put it before Congress to force them to, on a national stage, to address the truths and untruths. Here, let me get it here real quick.
While Keith's pulling that up, Mark, I'm going to refer you to Mike Woodyshek's post there. He says, probably avoiding a class action lawsuit like VW had with emissions. See, even VW, you can't even escape it there.
Well, it was funny.
Okay, here's the resolution we put. A resolution, and I did this because I was inspired by that SEMA was beginning to step up and the MIC was beginning to step up. So like Bob said, we'd have substantial numbers to take before Congress and say this has got to be addressed. So here's the resolution. A resolution by the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, motorcycle and automotive groups to Congress to demand scientific transparency and truth for every motoring individual in the world. Whereas truth and free speech are the cornerstones of our society, motorcyclists all over the country want our rights and the truth to be respected. Whereas critical thinking is the backbone of science, it needs to be held high for kids all over the world. America always endeavored to be the bastion of truth and free speech. Whereas science is never settled and the public requires nothing but the truth as it affects their very existence. Whereas children deserve to know the truth and scientific transparency, no matter who tries to hide the truth, it will surface and the real deniers will be exposed. Whereas every law in the country that affects the lives, livelihoods, homes, businesses, and transportation must be based on truth or they are meaningless. Whereas criminal governments throughout history restricted free speech, we cannot allow any attack on free speech to infiltrate our government. A rough draft by yours truly.
It may be a little unclear how you actually feel about it for them, though, Keith.
Well, we can't mess around, God damn it.
Right.
At this point, no.
You do have a way with the words, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank both of you guys. Bob freely tells people the story about how I tricked him into this whole thing, but he sure does seem naturally suited to it. So I don't think it was a bad
kind
deal.
of trick him into it. I'm on Bob's side on that one.
What?
You did kind of trick him into it, just a little bit.
Hey, once you find somebody that fits the perfect pair of shoes, you got to get them in it.
Yep. Yeah, we needed somebody with connections and understanding of how things work
and can get the word across. You know, there's the big thing.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it. I kind of blindsided both of you guys and asked you to come on last minute, and I wanted to make sure, with everything that we got to talk about at the MRF meeting of the minds, we didn't get enough of your input in it, Keith, and I just want to make sure that as we move forward with this, I know in about 2 weeks we're going to have Kirk Willard on, and I would like to have both of you guys back on then too, and all of us kind of recap what's going on with MRF and talk about this some more.
Chris,
I should be able to figure out my computer by then.
I have a quick question. You guys were both at the meeting of the minds. Were there other guys from the industry? Were there any other publications represented there? Were there any aftermarket shops represented? Were there any distributors represented?
Not outside that I saw, outside the existing MRF.
Yeah, a lot of the guys that we talked to that were shop owners were also there through either COC or NCOM, you know, or SMROs. Like it wasn't like there was a lot of independent participation. I'll tell you who was there that surprised me was the AMA had several people there, you know, which.
Yes, you're right. In fact, I sat with them that Saturday night, and they seem to be coming around. They want, you know, I've been an AMA member since 1972 because of the racing history and stuff. And I just asked them point blank, you know, so, you know, what are you guys doing for us in terms of street and our protection? And these guys were street riders, and they were focused on getting some of our concerns taken care of, and they're trying to straighten out their situation in Washington. They've had some little bumpy roads there with some of their lobbyists and things in DC, but they're getting it cleaned up, and they're focusing on street riders.
Well, just my opinion, and Keith, you'll have the insight to tell me if I'm off base with this, but one of the ways it seemed like from the outside that you guys were successful with your helmet law efforts was one at a time you were backing people who would get a ticket, and you'd push it as far as it would go through the courts. And I think that that's kind of the approach that we need to do with this. Like, if we would take the MRF's lead, and instead of everybody trying to have individual efforts, if we had one lobbyist group that was dealing with everything on Washington, and one place that we were putting all the money to go after a fight like this, maybe we could take one guy at a time that's putting on an exhaust system and gets a fine from the EPA. Maybe we could take that guy and push his case as far as it would go and try to get it to Supreme Court and make them prove some of this stuff. Maybe we could do that in the same fashion, one person after another after another.
You know, when I went around talking to these guys, and again, this was just this weekend, the shop owners, I left them my contact information, and you put together that email for me for just this type of stuff, for the MRF IMA stuff. And I said, you have a problem or somebody approaches you, please contact us so we can figure out how we can help you. And that may be the way, Chris, but I want them to know it's not just asking for money. We want to know if they run into trouble or they have any type of concerns that we can address for them.
Keith, what do you think?
Well, the MRF does have a major lobbying organization in Washington, D.C. Now, for a case to get to the Supreme Court, you're going to have to take it, you know, you're going to have to take it from wherever jurisdiction it starts out in and then push it from one court to another. First, you'll have to get to the Supreme Court of that state, and then it can go to the Supreme Court. So that's a really interesting notion. But to me, it all comes back down to the whole doomsday scenario.
Yeah.
As long as they're going to say we're doomed, that's where they get what you mentioned before, the control to come after everything. So to me, we break the doom, then we're going to take back our control.
Well, and the reason we've hooked up with the MRF is because we felt they would really focus on our independent needs. And people don't realize the money involved to create a lobbyist organization, and they already have a great one.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was originally asked to start a new organization, I worked with you, Keith, before at SEMA and my efforts at the MIC, so I'm well aware of that. I said, no, we got to work with the MRF. And I got to tell you, I am so pleased with how responsive they've been to creating this brochure, to adapting their application forms to feature the IMA.
Oh, and they're amazing.
Having us come to their meeting. They've been real supportive in a really short amount of time.
They're amazing. I can't believe how much like a family they are. Like I was really, really surprised that this wasn't just a, an office thing. Like they really, really are like a tight knit family. The people that are behind MRF. If you get an opportunity to go out to one of these, the Meeting of the Minds or, STEAM or any of the other events that they're doing, you really would do yourself well to see how these people are, how they operate together. Absolutely.
We got to help them. We got to help them grow this family.
Yes.
And what Bob's doing is going to help. But there is so much more.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Right on. Well, gentlemen, listen, thank you so much for coming on with us in short notice. Bikernet.com. Don't miss the opportunity. The Thursday news alone is worth the time to get in and check it out. The amount of information, if you don't know, before any of us were paying attention to the digital trafficking of motorcycle information, Mr. Keith Ball founded Bikernet.com, and it is, to date, the longest running magazine. He just adds pages to pages to pages. So for as long as we've been doing Cycle Source, he's adding pages to the same magazine over and over. It exists on Bikernet.com. You should go there today and check it out. And Mr. Bob Kay, the now head man in charge of IMA, and it's a real thing, baby. Congratulations. He doesn't look that impressed.
I just don't know what to say there. But you know what? I will say.
Last hour, you have new members, Bob.
What's that?
I am honored. I am really honored to do this. I've been focused on the aftermarket, as Keith and and I'm honored to represent this at this stage of my career. I would also like to thank Keith for the nomination for engaging and educating the aftermarket groups. And again, I just, if I can give a little bit back, I'm really honored. And I know I tease you and kid about the way I got tricked into this, but I had the best weekend ever. I enjoy talking, and if I can help dealers and keep this industry alive for what it's done for me, it's totally my honor.
Just when you thought you were out, Bob, they pull you back in.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Keith, like I said, man, all I can do is apologize because so far our generation has let you guys down, but we're trying, damn it. We're trying, and we're going to go back at this.
No problem. We've got a major fight in front of us, and we got to step up.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you both. We'll talk to you in the next couple weeks here. Let's all get back together on this subject, and you guys can tell everybody we're going to do it. We'll let you know.
All right, you got it.
All right.
All right,
all right.
fellas.
Thanks.
See you guys.
See you,
Right.
Heather.
See you later.
Bye, guys.
Okay, so you're watching Shop Talk on the Dennis Kirk Motorcycle Studio Network. Killer show tonight. Like, where do you have the opportunity to have legends and 30-year rally, people that are running the hot new stuff at the 30-year-old rally and making it better than ever? It's all happening on Shop Talk, and it happens every Sunday at 9 p.m. through the courtesy of Dennis Kirk and everyone else up in the corner there that's helping us bring this show to you. Gonna wrap this thing up tonight. Thank you guys so much comments, support. Steve Broyle's in the house with us. Everybody really, really impressed with the show tonight, and I can't thank you enough because sometimes I'm not going to lie to you, and like this was part of our conversations at Meeting of the Minds this weekend. Sometimes when you're talking about this stuff, it's not the most exciting. It's hard to keep people's attention, but this is the stuff we have to do right now. Our entire culture depends on it. The future of what we do, the history of everything that we've been up to this point. So don't let the bastards get you down, as was once said to me. Got anything more?
I don't even care.
I like motorcycles.
I think next weekend's Shop Talk, I think we're stealing a page from the Pro Monkey book. We're gonna do a little house party
We are.
version of Shop Talk, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be on the road. So we're going to do something a little loosey goosey.
Oh boy.
Little loosey-goosey.
Am I busy that day? What day is that?
Sunday.
We got You have a bar mitzvah to go to or something.
All right, man. Listen, once again, thanks for letting us into your headspace and occupy more than 120 minutes of it for this week's installment of Shop Talk. And we'll try to get our shit together and bring you something a little better next time, where we'll come back at you, same chopper time.
Same chopper channel.
Watch your back, Felicia.
We'd like to thank our sponsors for their continued support, and we hope you pay them a visit when you're in the market for great motorcycle parts, products, and events. S&S Cycle, Makuni American, Baco Parts, The Broken Spoke Saloon, Twisted Tea, The Iron Horse Saloon, High Seas Rally, Twisted Choppers, Twin Power, Drag Specialties, Geico, Law Tigers, Tech Cycle, Fueling Parts, Lone Star Rally, Hijinks Apparel, Progressive Insurance, Spectral Oil, No School Choppers, Motion